The following episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show was recorded before the SAG-AFTRA strike began. Our guest is in full support of the strike and stands in solidarity with the efforts of fellow SAG-AFTRA actors in their fight for fair wages and protections.
Hi, I'm J. Paul Zimmerman, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it!
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Happy to have you here with us. Well, I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh. With today, as always, our co-host, Chris Bixby and Matt Bingel. How you guys doing?
We're
doing good. Hi everybody, how you doing? I'm
doing great. As always, Chris, what do you have for today?
Our guest for today, he is an actor, director, and writer who, if you're a Disney Channel fan, you may remember him from the show Good Luck Charlie as Bob Duncan. He's been in other projects as well, such as The Incredible Hulk Returns, Robin Hood Men in Tights, a whole bunch of other things that we're going to talk about. And here he is, Eric Allan Kramer. Eric, happy to have you here.
Hey, how are you guys?
Fantastic.
Doing good.
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Thank you.
We're doing all right.
Good.
Little bit of June
good.
gloom out here on the West Coast, but otherwise we're fine.
Awesome. Well, to kick things off, in your own words, could you kind of introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
Okay, so my name's Eric Kramer. Actually has to be Eric Allan Kramer for the purposes of the union. There was a Eric Kramer that beat me to it. So I either had to change my name or use my middle name. So I hate using the middle name, but there you go. I have been doing this way too long. It's surprising they still hire me. But I have lived in Los Angeles since the late 80s, 88, 89, when I did Incredible Hulk Returns, and have done a bunch of movies, television series, guest spots, bunch of theater, all sorts of stuff since then.
Nice.
Fantastic. What was your background like and how did you grow up?
My dad was actually a professional football player, and he originally, I was born in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, and my father got picked up by the Canadian Football League, and so the family followed him up there. He was a Calgary Stampeder for a number of years until he retired, and after he was done with football, the family stayed up there. He wound up getting a job in the concrete industry, and I got all of my education up there, up straight through theater school. So yeah, it was a pretty straightforward journey. I mean, I didn't go into high school wanting to be an actor. I actually wanted to be a graphic artist. And that's what I thought I was going to school for. And then I met a drama teacher by the name of Bill Chin, who literally, I none of this, without him, I doubt I'd be where I am today. He just introduced me to the world of acting, showed me what acting really was, and showed me that maybe there was a spot in there for me. So I played a lot of sports in high school, but wound up more and more being in the drama room and doing plays. I auditioned for a theater school back then. There was schools you wanted to go to, but there was either the National Theater School in Montreal or there was the BFA acting program at the University of Alberta. And I was fortunate enough to get into the University of Alberta, to the U of A, and Yeah, it was a 4-year program, got my bachelor's, got out, and with the exception of a 6-month-long bouncing gig at a nightclub downtown,
Hmm.
um, I haven't had to be anything other than an actor for my whole career.
Nice, nice.
Hmm.
Awesome.
So who are some of your biggest influences getting into acting?
Oh man. Oh wow. That's like a what's your favorite movie question. All the names sort of leave at once you start thinking about it. I mean, I'll tell you the one person who changed my life, who had the biggest influence on me and who I owe my whole career in Los Angeles to, is a fellow by the name of Gary Sandy, who was Andy Travis on a sitcom called WKRP in Cincinnati back in the day.
Hmm.
And I did a show with him up in Canada, and we were friendly with each other, hung out a little bit. But the show ended. He wound up going back to LA. I was in Canada doing other things, and I was touring with the stage show of the Rocky Horror Show. And we were actually in Edmonton. We were supposed to go to Toronto. And then I believe the theater in Toronto had a water main break or something, and the theater got wiped out. So all of us that thought we had months more of work, were suddenly unemployed. We found that the show closed on a Sunday. I think if I remember right, we found out on a Friday. So we finished out the weekend. I got up Monday morning, the phone rings, I get on the phone, and it's Gary Sandy.
Oh, wow.
I said, so what's up? And he said, well, he says, I'm here in Los Angeles. He says, I'm doing the play that we did up there. He says, the guy that got your role just got fired. I told him that you know the show. I told him you're an American citizen. He says, would you want to come down and do a show in LA for a few months? I said, well, turns out as of 12 hours ago, I'm unemployed. I said, so yes. I said, of course. And he said, fantastic. He got me on the line with the producers. And that afternoon, I was on a plane to Los Angeles. And that was the door that opened, that pretty much dictated where the rest of my career was going to go.
Nice.
Mhm. Interesting. So, as you mentioned in the introduction, you mentioned the Incredible Hulk returns. For those who don't know, he played the Marvel superhero Thor in the Incredible Hulk returns. What was it like working on that movie?
It was fantastic. It was my first. It was my first real Hollywood job, and I was super green to the whole thing, no pun intended. And so I was this young kid and intimidated and excited and everything all at once, and just got thrown into it. Everybody on that show was fantastic and warm and welcoming. Lou was great. Bill Bixby was he was everything you hoped Bill Bixby would be. Just really one of the greatest, warmest human beings I've ever met. And the whole feel on that set, trickled down from him through everybody. So it was really the greatest way to get my feet wet in this town. And got to be a superhero. I had grown up watching the Incredible Hulk. So it was just suddenly there are moments in your life where you suddenly realize, holy cow, I'm here.
Right, of course.
And that was one of those moments. So that's my really tiny, small little sliver of the MCU
Yeah.
pie. So yeah, so that was, back in the day before CGI and abs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. So you also worked on the movie Robin Hood Men in Tights, playing the role of Little John. What was that like to work on that?
Oh my God. We called that shoot Camp Brooks. That movie was just great in so many ways. And it's probably, so many stories from that show. There are, I met one of my best friends in my life on that shoot, Matthew Peretta, who played Will Scarlett O'Hara in that. And you got to hang out at Video Village and just listen to Mel tell stories every day. We called it Camp Brooks. We were shooting out in the Antelope Valley. And so we would head out there every morning, and you'd spend the day riding horses, telling jokes, shooting arrows. Dave Chappelle was on that. It was just a running monologue from the time you got on set till the time they called the final cut. Just so many great people and faces, and everybody came to that set to visit, from Sid Caesar to Kevin Costner to everybody just showed up. So it was again, it's just one of those life experiences that I will carry with me forever.
Uh,
Oh, wonderful.
definitely.
Terrific. Moving on to some of your earlier series roles, you starred in a sitcom called The Hughleys, which aired on ABC and a former network called UPN, which is no longer a
Yep.
thing, by the way.
Yeah.
What was it like working on that show?
Well, it was D.L. Hughley's show, and he was just one of the greatest bosses ever. It was again, everybody on that show was just so much fun to work with. And it was, look, sitcoms are hands down the greatest job in television. It's besides the fact that it's reasonable hours, it's the closest thing you'll ever get to doing theater in this town. So you get to rehearse, and then you get to shoot in front of a live audience. You get to shoot everything pretty much in order. It's the greatest job in television, and thank goodness for sitcoms, because that was most of my career.
Nice. Now on to Good Luck Charlie. What was the audition process like for that show?
That was a role I never thought I would get. Honestly, I didn't think there was any chance in heck that I would ever be a Disney dad. But I got the call. I went in and read, and I made the comment once I got the scene and once I got in the room with everybody. I made the comment. I said, I got to tell you, everything I'm saying in this scene, I just said to my kids this morning. So the whole character dialogue situation, everything was really natural. And I had a lot of fun in the room. Everybody laughed. It was sort of a great experience. Left, and then nothing for a good couple of months. And I had long forgotten about the show. I didn't hear anything, within that first week after auditioning. So I was like, okay, well, that's gone. And then like 2 months later, they're bringing me back in. And by this point, they had sort of narrowed everybody down, and they were doing chemistry reads with people, and the show just came together. Really one of just, again, it's another one of those sort of best experiences in this town. My big joke was, and I keep telling people this, is that I would leave my family in the morning and then I would go to my family on set. It was just that comfortable. I would make lunches for everybody. The boys and I are still really close. Bradley and I hang out quite a bit. And
Oh, yes.
cook and do all that. Jason is a regular at our poker games, and you stick around this business long enough. I've collected a lot of TV wives and TV children, most of which you're still friendly with when you bump into each other, but you don't really stay in touch. But the boys and I have, and I've always kind of treasured that, because I love those kids. I love those kids to death. Well, hardly kids anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Bradley's in his early 20s and is now looking like he's ready for, young leading man roles. So, and the little twit can outdrive me on a golf course, which really upsets me to my core. But
Yeah, I've seen, I don't know if you've seen like the podcast that he does with Jake Short. They talk a lot about golf and stuff. Oh my gosh.
yeah, the two of them golf quite a bit, and Bradley was just getting into it. He was just starting to golf when him and I hadn't golfed for years. The crew that I had golfed with, everything just kind of dissipated, and I tried to get my daughter into it. That didn't work, and so I didn't golf for the longest time. And then suddenly Bradley was like, well, we should golf. So when Bradley and I started, I was giving him strokes, and my game was actually pretty good. And for some reason, the graph just went this way, or his game went up this way, my game went down this way, and we passed somewhere in the middle. And now that little twit is giving me strokes, and and constantly outdriving me. He's so much he's half my size, and he constantly outdrives me, which is just frustrating to a degree that I can't begin to tell you. So I've started taking lessons again, and we're on a goal to get back the crown and beat him.
Yeah. And did you know, Good Like Charlie would become one of Disney Channel's, most popular series?
I think we always knew we had. I mean, I loved that pilot. Like, I just loved the show. And it's not the thing that was different about our show, and that what I loved about it was that it was a real family show. Like, it wasn't aimed at, a younger group of kids. It was
Right.
we were a show that the whole family could watch together. And I think, I know that's the reason for the success it had, was when we did, like every series, we had a mix of, I call them, banana peel episodes, where we're bowling Santas over with big snowballs and stuff. But the stuff that was written that was really about family, like we have a treehouse episode, we have Bridget gets her driver's license, all that stuff was, I always thought that stuff was just on point, and I thought those were the stories that connected with everybody. And when I would meet people, and when I still meet people today, I have as much to talk about with the parents as I do with the kids. And so I think that's the, I think that's what made that show the hit that it was and gave it its staying power. I think we're probably like on our third generation of kids already. And they're, everybody's picking up that show. I mean, we came down in 2012. So we were down officially 10 years last year. So it's crazy because it doesn't feel like that length of time. But you look at the ages of the kids that recognize you, and you realize that it's, we're going through generations of families. So
I know. It's crazy because I was 9 when the show premiered and I'm 22 now. So it's crazy like how much time has passed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, we've all certainly gotten older. I still look at the kids the same way. Well, Jason turned 21 when we were doing that show. So, Jason's in his 30s now. Jason, it's crazy because I still see them as teenagers. And Bradley, especially, who was like 11, I think, when we started that show.
Wow.
And now him and I are going to happy hours. So it's quite a difference. And it's great. It's really great watching them become. Bradley has really developed into this great, into a really good, really solid actor. And he's got great story sense. He's just, it's an amazing thing watching your kids grow up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So now in the show, one of the things your character is most known for is, of course, owning the pest control company, Bob's Bugs Be Gone. What was it like getting to do those scenes?
Bob took a beating during that show.
Yes.
I was either wet or covered in mud or covered in dust or, taking a shot to the head or, rolling. I actually, on that pilot episode, I actually did to myself what the character does in the show. And I wound up bruising my coccyx because I went down the
stairs.
We started, there's this whole thing about going down the stairs, and they had a stunt guy there, and it was just, the cameras were just too close. And then when I saw what they wanted them to do, and I do stuff, I'm physical as well. And I taught a lot of, combat workshops, and I teach fencing, and I do all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I can do that. And so I sort of showed myself going down the stairs. Well, it's not just one take, it's a bunch of takes. And what I didn't realize, what I wasn't paying attention to, was going down the stairs was fine. What happened was when you hit the floor at the bottom, it went flat. So what it did was I bounced all the way down the stairs, which I had control of and was great. But when I hit the floor, it threw my legs out, and I came down on my backside, right on the lower edge of the step. And I was messed up for a good couple of weeks. Just had a hard time getting in and out of chairs. But we did have we had like some bug scenes which didn't. I'm really good with insects. I'm just not good with spiders. And so we had a scene where I had to in a classroom where I had to hold bugs for the kids and stuff.
Oh yeah.
They were asking me what I was comfortable with. And I just, no flipping spiders, no tarantulas, no. I said, you will never get the shot because you're going to be rushing me to the hospital for a heart attack. And they came out with this huge black scorpion with this huge tail that,
oh gosh,
actually, honest, I was the only one on set who was fine with it. I said, as long as it's, as long as it doesn't have 8 legs and is looking at me with 16 eyes, I honestly don't care. So the scorpion was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But yeah, but other than that, it was always, getting, trapped under houses and having things explode in my face and everything else.
So overall, are there any Good Luck Charlie episodes that stick out as some of your favorites?
Yeah, the ones that I mentioned, actually. The one where Bridget gets her driver's license was all the emotions you see in that scene are absolutely genuine.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because I already had daughters. I already had daughters by that point. And they had what was interesting about that show was I thought I had prepared myself for every contingency with my kids. And then when I read that scene, I realized I was not prepared for that at all. And it was ridiculously emotional, embarrassing on the table read, because I never read the scripts before. Like every Monday we would have a table read of the script so the writers could hear it and then make any changes before we got into rehearsal. And I never read the script in advance because Monday, it was like a little present I would get every Monday morning. So I would get to the table read and it would be like this brand new show and I'd be hearing it for the first time. And it was always a great fun little experience. Well, so that show comes along and I'm reading this and we get to the Bridget scene and I am about to burst into tears reading this on the cold read. And I'm going through the scene and I'm feeling it coming and I'm just trying to get through it without embarrassing myself at the table. And then I barely got through it and just closed the script and went back to my dressing room and got control of myself before we started blocking and doing rehearsals of it. So that is, out of everything that we did, that's the one show that stands out. The other one that I keep going back to is the treehouse episode.
Oh,
where Dabney wants the tree cut down, which means we have to get rid of the treehouse, which means the kids are up in there and they're suddenly going after, they're suddenly remembering growing up in the treehouse and, all the rest of that. And that was real solid family stuff. And that was like, I would have to think most families could connect to those feelings and those stories. So, I mean, those two off the top of my head. And then other ones were just silly where I have memories of them because it took so long to shoot them that we just there's the one where we go to Hawaii and we were doing one of these hotel room scenes and it was just getting super late and everybody was just punchy and we could not stop laughing. Could not get through the scene. But it's one of those moments that just bonds that whole cast together because you're all in the exact same place. So yeah, lots of good memories from that show.
There's a lot of good ones. One of my favorites is, I think it's from season 2, where the family tries to potty train Charlie.
Right.
And then like a bunch of things happen and like the power goes out, and so they use Mrs. Dabney's power and then the power goes out again and her power goes out.
We had such great guest stars on that show, and I got Shirley Jones got to be my mom.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Mrs. Partridge, and besides the fact, Academy Award winner, just an amazing lady. Every once in a while in this business, you meet your heroes, and you just meet people that you have respected and looked up to for so long. And then suddenly you're there doing scenes with them, and that stuff gets to be pretty special.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So did you have any favorite characters to do scenes with?
Again, that's like, what's your favorite movie type of character. I'll tell you what, the last series I did for AMC, Lodge 49, was really one of the best, really just one of the best things I'd ever been a part of. And that was a collection of actors that I can't begin to tell you the amount of respect I have for them. And Jim Gavin, who created and wrote the show. It was really, if nothing happens for the rest of my career, I can point back to that show and go, at least I did that. It's just one of those shows where everything, writing, acting, everything just came together. And there wasn't a day that I wasn't anxious to get on set. And even if I wasn't shooting that day, I always loved to pop in and just see what was going on. Just, you get, as an actor, every once in a while, you're just given a gift. And that show was one of them.
Definitely. Absolutely.
So in 2011, Good Luck Charlie had its own Disney Channel original movie, or DCOM for short. Good Luck Charlie, It's Christmas. What was that like, getting to work on, I don't know, such, I guess we'd call it an extended episode, I guess.
Yeah, it was interesting because that was a show that was not written by our guys. It was written by another group of actors, or another group of writers who, were going off their interpretation of the show. So it was interesting in the sense that, we weren't on our home turf. We were in Utah. The home sets were slightly different because now it was a film shoot and not a multicam shoot. We had a blast. I had an absolute blast in Utah. But yeah, it really did feel like its own separate thing. It didn't really feel tied into the show in the same way that that all the episodes and stuff were. It was still super fun to work on. I think I still have the bruises from all the paintball games we played, because the boys and I went and played paintball, which was just, that was before I started getting in shape. And even then I was like I'm this lumbering 260-pound target. And then you've got Jason running around like a gazelle, who, I swear to God, it's like trying to shoot at a piece of paper sideways to try and nail him. And then Bradley and I were teamed up against Jason and somebody else, and Bradley's gun went off and he shot me all up my backside and up my back. It was just, I literally, we had that whole shoot. I would be back in the hotel taking a shower, and there were welts everywhere. I got shot in the back of the ear, and it split the back of my head open, and I was bleeding. And it was, super fun, but wow, like just a ton of battle scars coming back from that movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, can you talk about your last day filming the show and the overall feeling that the show was about to,
Yeah,
coming to an end?
that was tough because that show could have gone on. Disney has just a certain number of shows that they shoot, and that's sort of it, and then they're on to the next show and the next show. But that's one of those shows, honestly, that show could have aired like on ABC Friday nights, and that show would have been like Family Ties. That show could have run as long as everybody wanted to go. So it was weird because it just the decision to end it felt a little arbitrary. It just didn't feel like it had come to its natural conclusion. And so that was weird. And then of course it's like saying goodbye to that house and that character and those stories and
your family, basically,
and your family. And I mean, it was a super, super sad day. Bridget had I know Bridget had a couple of moments where we were shooting some of the last camera, the video cam stuff. And she just couldn't do it. She was like, I'm just not ready to do this. So can we do this? Can we do this later? It's a tough day. And that last shot was really all of us together in the kitchen where we had, pretty much, spent the last 4 or 5 years of our life. And
Right.
it was, and the crew and everybody is all around the cameras and stuff. And it just felt, it was super sad, and it just felt wrong saying goodbye to a show before its time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also agree that if it would have been on another network, I definitely think it would have lasted a few more years.
No, we were absolutely, we were a full-on family sitcom.
Oh yeah.
Like that show could have run, forever.
Really could have.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly. But of course it's beyond your control. So
Yeah.
what can you do? It's Disney, like you said, they've only got a certain number of shows, and then on to the next one.
That's how they just do those shows in blocks. I think partly because they're worried the kids are growing up. You know what I mean? The kids watching are growing up, and the kids in the show are growing up. But what you don't realize is that, but that's part of it. And you've still got Mia, who's just coming into her own, and and we had just had a baby at that point, and it's you sort of realize that once you have your audience will follow you. And I've always been a little surprised that Disney hasn't tried to find another version of that show. Because I think it was really, I think it was eye-opening in regards to the kinds of stories you can tell and the kinds of audiences you can have,
Yeah.
Right.
Much agreed. So moving on from Good Luck Charlie, you've had recurring roles on many other TV series, including shows such as Mike and Molly and Guidance. Can you talk a bit about those?
Mike and again, all those shows. Guidance was fun in the sense that you suddenly realize you've grown into like the father roles and the principal roles, and suddenly suddenly you're the old guy on set. And there's this whole cream of of the next generation of actors coming up, which actually is really fun to watch. And I found it's actually quite fun to be the veteran on set and to be the guy with the experience and the stories. And it's fun. It's fun to give back. It's fun to pass on what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So it's all, every show, every stage that you step on is unique. It has its own energy, it has its own life, it has so you remember different experiences for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Right. Definitely.
So currently, you also worked as an acting coach. How did that come into play for you?
I've been doing it for years. I've been I've always, throughout the course of my career, I've run acting workshops, fight workshops. Over the pandemic, I was just doing online classes, all of it just because I wanted to. I still have students and stuff that I work with from out east and here in LA and up in Vancouver, and I just did it for the love of doing it. And then a bunch of people got on my case and said, you really sort of need to develop a home for this, so that people can find you and come to you and stuff. So yeah, so after doing it my whole career, I finally created sort of an online home for it at Eric Allan Kramer coaching.com. And it's, now with Zoom and everything being online, you can work with anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Right.
And I think that's pretty, I think that's pretty cool. And now certainly everything, like as far as being an actor goes, now, your auditions have moved from inside the room now to like self-tapes at home. So it's really it's a skill and a set of muscles that you really have to work at, because it's a whole new ball game now, getting roles. So yeah, and again, it's like, if I can give back, if I can help young actors or even veteran actors sort of just help them find their way a little bit, then that's as satisfying as landing a role yourself. Or and I've directed a bunch of stuff, and I feel like a director again. I feel it's very much the whole process. I like to think of as actors working with actors. It's creating a community where everybody is helping each other, so
yeah. Definitely. So aside from acting, you are also a fight director, which you mentioned a bit earlier. Can you talk a bit about kind of what that is and some of the work you've done through that?
Yeah, that was something I kind of fell into. Well, not kind of, I did fall into it during theater school, because fencing was part of what we took, and learning how to fight on stage and that sort of thing. And we had an instructor, again, another huge, great influence in my life, a man by the name of Jean-Pierre Fournier, who was our swordsman, our fight instructor, our fight master at the University of Alberta. And I just fell in love with it and wound up sort of hanging out in his office and watching him work and that sort of thing. And he basically just kind of took me under his wing. And I was his apprentice, his assistant for some things. And then there wound up being a couple of things he couldn't do that he had me do. And it just became another part of what I did. So it was a lot of stage stuff, some film stuff, a lot of sword work, taught a lot of workshops in just teaching basic fencing as a way into sword play, rapier, dagger, broadsword, quarterstaff, all that stuff. You know, and then you know, you take those skills like into Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and you know, working with the fight masters on there. It's a great world. I remember in Canada when, you know, whenever you would run across other people who did it, all you wanted to do was share your stuff. It was like, so you work quarterstaff? Let blah 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 blah. And everybody just shared what they knew with each other. It was a really great, really fun community. And you know, you get to be the sword guy. So it's yeah, I don't do it as much anymore, hardly at all anymore. Actually, there's just too many people here that do it in LA. But it's always been it's always been a really big passion of mine, that.
Definitely.
Awesome. So you've also done some directing and writing. Can you talk about your directing and writing work?
So I directed some Charlies and I directed some stage stuff. Certainly more stage stuff than TV and film. I kind of like being on the other side of the camera. I like where it puts me. It sort of puts you, and it makes you sort of part of the production end of it and the writing end of it, and as well as it sort of puts you in the middle of all the actors. So it's a really it's a really fun place to be. You really feel like you have your hands in all aspects of the production. And I think I've always worked well with actors. Again, it goes back to the whole coaching thing. It just I'm very comfortable. I'm just very comfortable working with actors and finding the story. So that's fun. I mean, writing, I haven't done. I'm too hard on myself as a writer. So writing, I'm way too self-critical of myself as a writer. So I don't write as much as I should, simply because I can't get past the first 10 pages. I'm constantly giving myself too many notes instead of just getting it out and getting it down on paper. But we had, you know, we've certainly done theater shows. When I first came out here, we had an improvised soap opera that ran every week down at the Zephyr Theater here on Melrose in Los Angeles. So yeah, I think it's something I certainly enjoy doing. I need to be far less critical of myself.
Makes sense.
To get it done. I am a songwriter now, officially a songwriter. I had to write.
Cool.
Wow, nice.
That's cool.
I had to write
Awesome.
I had to write a song for Lodge 49.
Interesting.
Wow.
Which was terrifying.
Imagine,
Beginning of season
Mm-hmm.
beginning of season 2, they called me up and said, we just want to give you a heads up that you're going to be singing a song for talent night. And I went, oh, okay. And it was for a specific series of events that happened in the show. And I went, oh, all right. Well, that's not a big deal. I play some guitar and stuff. I said, just have when the musical director gets it, just have him send it to me. And there was a huge pause. And they went, yeah, you do play guitar. I said, well, yeah. And they said, well, we were kind of hoping maybe you would, maybe you could write something so it could be a little more organic to you. And I said, I am not a musician. I play guitar, but that is not my thing. But I said, look, I said, I will give it a go, but have a backup or something handy. And it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, trying to write that. I mean, it was just I lost sleep over it. But I did it. They liked it. We recorded it for the show, and now I'm a published songwriter, so I can actually legitimately put that on.
Nice,
because I get
awesome.
royalty checks.
That's
for
really
it.
cool.
So yeah,
well, congrats
Wow,
to you.
that's really cool.
I'm one in a row, one song in a row. Got a library of one.
Library of one.
One in the world.
My greatest hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't even have a B-side for the record.
No.
No, right. Yeah.
No. It can only go up from here too.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
So now, what would you like to say to those who are watching or listening who have supported the projects you've worked on over the years?
No, I mean, it's nice that it's a great feeling to know. What am I trying to say? Look, I've always loved being an actor. I've always loved telling stories. I've always felt that being an actor was actually an important job, because we tell the stories that allow us to look at ourselves. We carry the history. We're the culture, we're society. We're how we look at ourselves. And I think to do stuff like that well is really hard. And so when you, even if it's just being able to make people laugh or make people think or touch them in some way, or you get a story back about, how, I just had the same conversation with my kid or my daughter, and you realize that, you realize that you're sometimes you're not just entertaining people, which by the way is fine, but you're also making them realize something about themselves, seeing a part of themselves and what's going on, being able to understand, where we are as a community, as a nation of people. I know that sounds really like maybe I'm overstating it, but I think it's true. I think it's we're storytelling in the same way that stories have been handed down through generations of people and families before they were able to actually record and get this stuff down. So to realize that in some way that you've made people happy or got them to see something a different way, or reaffirm feelings they already had, it's really it's a really nice feeling, and certainly like with the Charlie fans, like that's an experience. Like if you guys hadn't watched that show, if you guys hadn't had the Duncans in your home, I would never have had that experience. So actually I'm incredibly grateful. And one of the first things out of my mouth, like I'm saying to you guys, is like, thank you so much for watching that show and for being a part of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely been a huge part of my life.
Yep.
While watching all those
yes.
shows has definitely helped me through a lot of tricky times, and I'm actually currently binge watching the show on Disney Plus.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's
currently on the second season.
Nice.
In fact, actually, the last episode I watched while binge watching was that potty training one.
Wow.
Wow.
That's kind
Really?
of where I'm at
All
right
right.
now with binge watching it.
Right? Yeah.
So funny. You get reminded of, you just get reminded of stuff, and you were like, "Oh, right, we did that."
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are clips that'll pop up on YouTube sometimes, or somebody will send me something, and I just have absolutely no clue of filming it, like no memory of it.
Mhm.
Like I look at it and I mean, I remember it from a sense of, oh yeah, we did this, but it doesn't, there's something about it seems very removed.
Mhm.
And then, I go, and then there are other scenes that I remember like it was, like it was yesterday.
That makes sense because the show had almost 100 episodes. I think it was in somewhere in the 90s
We
for
had
how many
100
episodes.
episodes exactly. That's what they cut us off at.
Oh wow,
Wow.
wow,
Mm.
definitely.
So before we get to this last question here that we usually ask, if people would like to connect with you, where can people find you?
Oh my goodness. You know what? They can, they can find me on Instagram. They can find me on Twitter. I've just ventured into TikTok. I'm not sure if that's the place for me, but I have an account there. But yeah, just any kind of social media. Again, now I have this coaching website where people can get a hold of me at ericalankramercoaching.com. So yeah, I mean, it's all it takes is one Google search to find me somewhere. I mean, it's we're pretty spread out over the internet, I've discovered.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
and your social media and everything will be in the description down below, so people can follow you or connect.
Yep.
Yes.
So this last question that Jakey's going to ask is a question we usually save for the very end that we ask to all of our guests. Go ahead, Jakey.
Okay.
Yes. So of course, this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Hey, look at that.
Yes.
So, in your own words, when you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how would you define the word nostalgia?
Nostalgia, my career is nostalgia. Just go back to the Incredible Hulk Returns. You can't get any more nostalgic than that. That is absolutely, that is a throwback to early television, my friend.
Mm.
I swear it was back in the days when we had stuntmen jumping off buildings instead of all this CGI action.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Man, I sound like an old man. We did it back in the day. We did it ourselves. We hung from helicopters. We did all that. Had to walk 100 miles in the snow to get to school.
I've heard that one.
I mean, it's just, oh my goodness. I mean, just look at how everything has changed, even just in the last couple of years. I mean, now we're dealing with AI, I remember when Jurassic Park came out, nobody ever saw that on the screen before. That kind of, that kind of visual, boy, my buddy and I were just talking about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was this martial arts movie that came out back in the day that changed the way that we saw action movies. Everything is changing so rapidly now that a lot of the stuff, I think I get a little nostalgic for the way that we used to do things. I certainly get nostalgic for sitcoms. That seems to be a bit of a art right now. I get nostalgic for the way we used to tell stories. I get nostalgic for the way that we used to take our time and tell stories. I mean, this really sounds like an old man talking. but it's true. Everything is just like this and short sound bites and like non-stop action. It's like if you go back and you look at some of the great movies like Cool Hand Luke and The Godfather and I mean just like the great movies of cinema past, and just sort of watch how they tell stories back then compared to how the stories are told now. It's a pretty amazing evolution. It's really easy to sort of look at that time and go, oh, slow, nothing happens. But you're coming from an attitude of what you're used to now, as opposed to, what the stories were back then. So, and by the way, none of it's bad. It's just different. And there's so, with streaming, like everything that you have access to from content creators to streaming services to, you can watch full on movies on your phone. It's very interesting living in an age where you have access to everything all the flippin' time.
Yeah.
And it's now suddenly it's nostalgic to think that you have to wait a week to get another episode of your favorite show,
Yeah.
We've come to this part in our lives where everything's on demand. And like I say, a lot of it's really exciting.
Definitely.
Yes.
So if going back to the original question, I would say, I would say sort of where we came from. And by the way, I was back. So like nostalgia comes in generations, right? So it's when I was on the set of Men in Tights, we were the generation coming up. And so when we would listen to Mel tell stories, we would call that old Hollywood. And we would sit and we would talk in our trailers about how that was a time that we would never see again. From the way of how studios used to be to where we were now. And, now with the generation coming up, with the kids I work with and lecture to and do Q&As with, it's a whole different, it's a whole different climate. It's a whole different way of doing what we do.
Definitely great.
Absolutely true.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is really fun.
Yeah,
all right,
thank you very
thanks, guys.
much, and thank you for what you've done to be part of our lives
part
and
of our
keep up the
lives,
great work and can narrate what was next for you. And
all right, thanks so much.
Charlie's been part of our lives for so long.
Of course. Thanks, Eric. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk
Take
to you
care.
later.
See you, Eric.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya. And it's goodbye from us as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, we
indeed.
absolutely yes.
Gosh, that was a
Ah.
blast.
That was
Yes.
so fun. That really was. Can't believe it.
Yeah. Good, but really, Good Luck Charlie is a great show. I think it kind of brought
Really
back that
is.
kind of classic Disney Channel vibe with having
Mhm.
a show
Yeah.
that wasn't all focused around teens. Like it was a good family show. Because you have
Right,
earlier shows like Even Stevens, Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven that are very good family shows.
Mhm.
Yeah, and even just the family show itself, like Full House and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Brought that back too. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love Good Luck Charlie. Definitely a show that all of us, well, at least the three of us grew up with. Maybe you did too.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yes.
But it's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time with Eric Allan Kramer. And as always, what do we say,
Yes.
Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Can narrate for future episodes to come, and see you next time for more. So
Take care,
Bye.
everyone.
bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.